Well, everybody, welcome back to the channel. Ironman 3406 here. Got another new equipment tutorial I'm going to build for you guys here today. But before we do that, I just want to take a minute to thank everybody for subscribing to the channel, giving me the thumbs up and the likes. The last few months here, things have kind of gone up as far as watch time and subscribers and things like that, so I really appreciate that. But the purpose of the video today is to talk about a feature that's available in new Cat Motorgraders called Stable Blade, which is an anti-washboard feature. But before we get into that, let's talk about washboard. So what the heck is washboard? Washboard is those bumps you get in a road, on a gravel road in particular. I don't know if this is resonating very well through the camera, but I'll turn around and drive on this a couple times to give you a different angle here or there. Now that we all know what washboard looks like and what it feels like, let's just talk about it a little bit. Everybody always wants to blame the grader operator for washboard. Now that's true in some cases. Some grader operators just make a mess and don't care to go clean it up. But that's not the case for the majority of operators. Nobody likes to make a mess and bounce over it while they're making it. So stop blaming your grader guy for washboard and start blaming yourselves, and I'll explain why. So, why should you blame yourselves for making washboard? Because it's usually traffic and driving that causes it. It's usually not caused by the grader man doing regular maintenance. So when you're driving, and the biggest thing is speed. If everybody would just slow down a little bit on gravel, there'd be a lot less washboard. And the other thing about speeding on gravel is you're 3 times more likely to get into an accident when you're speeding on gravel. So just slow down a little bit. But when you think about you're driving on a gravel road, you're cruising along at 110 kilometers an hour, or 65, 70 miles an hour, whatever the case, and you see a stop sign coming up, and you pretend like you drive just like you're on asphalt, and you see that stop sign, you wait, you get really close to it, and you hammer on the brakes. That creates washboard. The phenomenon of the wheels under the vehicle pushing the dirt start to create those humpity bumps and make washboard. And once it starts, it progressively gets worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. Same thing happens after you stopped at the stop sign. Now you want to accelerate through the intersection. Everybody hammers on the throttle and goes as fast as they can. That's going to make washboard too. Accelerating aggressively the same way as stopping aggressively creates the same sort of phenomenon in creating washboard when you accelerate hard. So that's one of the main things that causes washboard at an intersection. Another place you're going to find really bad washboard is typically on a hill. Going up or going down, doesn't make no difference. And it's because of the same reason. Everybody's driving too fast on the gravel, they're coming up to the hill and they're going downhill, and all of a sudden, holy crap, I'm going a little bit too fast, they hammer on the brakes. Well, when you hammer on the brakes just like at an intersection, that the wheels start pushing dirt and making waves, and you end up with a bunch of washboard. Same thing going up the hill. You're down the hill now, you want to go back up the other side, hammer back on the throttle and go as fast as you can. Well, you're doing the exact same thing. Hard accelerating and hard braking are the number one, in my opinion, cause of washboard. Another place you're going to find lots of washboard is on curves. And for the exact same reason and same phenomenon that you get it on a hill or at an intersection, is traffic's going as fast as they can go. They come up to a curve. Holy geez, I'm going too fast. This is going to put me sideways. I got to slow down. So they hammer on the brakes going into the curve, and they start creating a bunch of washboard because they're aggressively hitting the brakes. And that washboard just amplifies and amplifies and amplifies and amplifies, and eventually on the whole curve, you've got washboard around it. And then when you get out of the curve, what do? You hammer on the accelerator, and away you go, and you're creating washboard even coming out of the curve. Whereas, at least everywhere that I drive, there's a sign that pops up giving you a warning that there's a curve coming. When you see that sign, just let off the accelerator a little bit. Coast down on your speed before you get to the corner and hammer on the brakes. You'll be doing your road maintenance crew a huge favor by not going into that curve too fast and having to slow down and make a mess of what they're trying to keep maintained for you. Enjoy this little commercial break from our washboard rant. So you'll see in the viewpoint of the camera right now, we are coming up to Diefenbaker Lake in Saskatchewan. Believe it or not, even in the prairie lands of Saskatchewan, there's the odd time we're going to take a ferry to get across the lake. So we're roading this grader to back to the shop, and we got to put it on the ferry to get across the lake. So just kind of a unique thing here in Saskatchewan. A lot of people don't know that, you know, sometimes we get on a ferry here. But yeah, there's a ferry. So we'll just get a little footage. So yeah, there comes the Riverhurst ferry. About a mile across-ish. But yeah, Diefenbaker Lake. So we're gonna put that on the ferry. Now return you to your regularly scheduled broadcast, ranting about washboard with Ironman 3406. Alright, now the other bit to washboard in fixing it is you have to cut it out to fix it. And this might ruffle some feathers with some folks, but a lot of times the supervisors or the people in charge of the grader operator don't give him or her the chance to actually cut the damage out. They want to see as many miles or as many kilometers as they can see graded at in the shortest amount of time possible. So they don't give them the opportunity to cut it out. Now, if there's any of those folks listening or watching, you got to start letting your grader operators actually repair the damage. Just tickling the top of the road and cutting off the top portions of the washboard humps and filling in the lows doesn't fix the washboard. It's a temporary fix for about the first 3 cars that drive across it. As soon as the first 3 cars that drive across it, all that loose gravel in the valleys just flops out, and guess what? Your washboard's back. So again, everybody wants to blame the grader operator when that happens because, well, the grader guy was just out here and it's rough again. Well, it's because the grader guy either doesn't know that they need to cut the washboard out to the very bottom, or they're not being given the opportunity to because their boss is saying, no, go, you got to do this many miles today, and I don't care, you got to get it done. So you can only do 2 passes or 3 passes. Well, that ain't gonna cut it. You're You're never ever going to fix that damage in the road if you're not cutting it out to the bottom and laying it back and laying it over and fixing it. And the final piece of this washboard rant will just be, you know, so we just talked about how you need to cut the damage out in order to fix it. Well, the conditions of the road take a huge part in that as well. Like if it's too dry, there's no point in cutting it, because all you're going to end up with is a whole bunch of really dry, flowery material that you can't do anything with anyway. You can't relay it and pack it without having moisture in it. So if it's too dry, then the washboard is going to be there because they can't cut it out. That's just the way it is. Imagine, do an experiment and you'll see what I mean. If you go into the baking cabinet at home, grab a couple cups of flour, dump it out on the counter, and take a rolling pin and try to make that flour into something that's, you know, got some density to it to make into a dough or whatever. It ain't gonna go very well for you. When you start adding a little bit of water to that flour, now all of a sudden when you start kneading it together and compressing it, it starts to stand up. It starts to become more dense, and you can actually roll it with a rolling pin. Same sort of idea. When dirt on your road is too dry, when they try to lay it back over, it's all just fluff and it just goes poof. So they need to have moisture in order to to really cut that washboard out and lay it back to give you a nice smooth surface road. So, moral of the story, stop just blaming your grader operator all the time for creating washboard. It's not always their fault. It's the easy guy to blame, but it's not always their fault. There's a whole bunch of other factors at play. The biggest one, in my opinion, is traffic. If traffic would slow down, read your road, see when the stop signs are coming, coast instead of hammering on the brakes, softly accelerate through intersections, up and down hills, all that sort of stuff, you will see less washboard in your roads. If you really think that a grader operator is making bumps on purpose just to make your life miserable, you really think they want to sit here and bounce around like this all day long? Well, then wisdom has been trying to catch up to you for a long time, and you just keep running too fast. There's no operator in the world that is purposely trying to bounce their ass out of their machine. So that's my washboard rant. Now we're going to get into actually going over this stable blade feature and how it can help operators or help them limit how much washboard they do actually make. So we'll get into that. Again, sorry about the long little rant there, but there's a lot of factors with washboard. I just want everybody to understand it before we got into talking about this stable blade or anti-washboard feature that's available in Caterpillar Motorgraders. So we'll get into that next. Thanks. Okay, so as I mentioned before we had our little chat about washboard and what it is, I told you outside that there was a feature in these new cat grailers available called stable blade. So what is stable blade? Before I show you how to use it, probably a good idea to understand what it does. Typically an operator, when they are maintaining roads, they make a windrow, they do a cut pass to get a windrow, and then that windrow gets spread back over the road as a cap. Without the stable blade feature, as a motor grader starts to hop, we as operators need to get on the throttle to slow the machine down so that it stops bouncing, or load the blade up more, or change the angle of the blade. There's a few things we can do to get the motor grader stop bouncing, but the easiest one is to just slow down. The trouble with that is every operator starts to feel the bounce a little bit different than the next operator. So one guy might not feel the bounce bumps start as early as another operator, or one operator might feel them way later. If you feel them way later, because the grader has started to do the hops, now you've got washboard behind you that you got to go fix. Just because of that human reaction time, not all of us can react quick enough to the grader starting to hop. So what stable blade does is it does that slow down motion for you. So there's a sensor in the back of the grader that senses that bouncy motion, that vertical up and down motion that the grader starts to make. And when you've got your throttle lock or your cruise control locked in, when you're doing that spread pass, that sensor's going to feel the grader start to hop long before we do in the seat. And as soon as it does that, it automatically does the throttle back, slow down thing, so that the motor grader doesn't make any damage on the road. So that's stable blade in a nutshell. It's an anti-washboard feature to try and just prevent the grader from bouncing during that spread pass. Now we'll get into the meat and gravy of it. Show you guys how to enable it, disable it, show you what it's doing on the road, and all that kind of fun stuff. So let's get into it. So we'll do the best we can here with the glare. I apologize, just the way the sun's coming through the window. There's a little bit of glare on the screen. But if you don't know if your Cat motor grader has stable blade, the first thing you want to do, or you want to find out, is you're going to go into your menu, click the I button, you're going to go into settings, you're going to hit OK. Once you're in settings, you're going to just scroll down and see if there's a stable blade option in your menu. If that option's in the menu, you've got the stable blade feature in your motor grader. Now, this is just my opinion, my experience with stable blade. It's terrible to leave it turned on when you're trying to do your cut pass, because every time the blade or the cutting edge skips over a rock, that sensor isn't smart enough to know it's a rock. It's just smart enough to know that the grader starts doing this, and it slows you down and speeds you up. So what I always try to tell everybody is, when you're doing your cut pass, come into here, into stable blade, click OK again, and then disable it for your cut pass. Hit OK, back, and you're at your main screen. Now go ahead, make your cut pass. So we'll do that, and I'll bring it back in a second, so hang tight. Alright, so I've gone ahead and I've made my cut pass now. So I've got you suction mounted to the front of the screen here, so that while I'm operating, hopefully you're able to see what's going on with the stable blade. But again, if we've gone and we've disabled the stable blade for the cut pass, we're going to come back into our menu, go into settings, we're going to go into stable blade, we're going to click OK again, and we're going to go and we're going to enable it. We're going to click OK, and we're going to go back to our main menu. Now that we've enabled stable blade, in our main screen here, we've got our directional arrow buttons. You can just barely see my finger over here, to arrow up and arrow down through our list of important information on the main screen. So you can go down 5 times to get to the stable blade sensitivity screen, or what I like to do, because it's quick and easy, is I just give it 1 click up, and that brings up the stable blade sensitivity bar. Now you can leave this screen up while you're blading so that you can adjust your sensitivity on the fly. Now, why would you want to adjust your sensitivity? Well, material types change. So if you get into really coarse or rocky material, you're going to want the stable blade to be less sensitive, so you're going to want to take it down to the left. If you're in finer, siltier material, you're going to want it to be more aggressive so that your grader doesn't start hopping as easy, so you're going to take it a little further right. Now I'm going to take it to the most aggressive here to start, so that you guys really get a sense of what this thing does when the stable blade kicks in. Now again, in order for the stable blade to work when you're doing your spread pass, you have to use your throttle lock. So you've got the throttle lock switch to turn it on and off here on the left, and then you've got your set switch. Now when you set your throttle lock, you get the little green light down here telling you that it looks like a choke symbol, telling you that the throttle lock's enabled. So we're going to get cruising around, or cruising to what speed I want to spread at. I'm going to lock my throttle lock on, and then you'll see what this stable blade's going to do, so that I don't have to get on the throttle and slow things down manually. It's going to look after that for me. Alright, this is going to be a little bouncy, just the way I've got this thing suctioned to the screen here. But what we're going to be watching for is there's going to be a little symbol that pops up right here beside the neutral symbol when the stable blade becomes active when you're doing the spread pass. So I'm just going to leave the camera go here. You'll also notice that when the stable blade kicks in, the RPMs are going to drop down. So you'll know that we're slowing down because it's trying to prevent making any washboard. So yeah, just hang out for the ride. We're going to do a spread pass here, and that way you guys can see what's going on. All right, perfect. You can see that the stable blade is active right now, so it's preventing me from going any faster because, oh, there, see, it tried to kick back in. Now again, I've got it set really, really aggressive right now to show you guys, just from a demonstration standpoint, kind of what's going on here. There, and then once it works through the bumps that it was creating, it throttles you back up right to where you had it set, and you keep spreading, and everybody's happy. There, we slowed down again because that sensor started to feel that we were going to start bouncing, so it just automatically throttles us back so that we can work through the bumps, or what it thought was going to be bumps, and then we just speed back up. Now, again, I've got it set really aggressive right now, so on the fly, I can adjust it down, click OK, and now it's not going to be as aggressive for when it kicks in and when it kicks out. Alright everybody, so that's how the stable blade works in the screen. You guys got a chance to see what was going on there. That little symbol that kicks in when it starts, when the stable blade's enabled, and then you could see how my RPM was going up and down. As that sensor started to feel that the grader was going to start to hop, it just throttled me back. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to take the grader back to the yard here, and I'll come back to this road that I just did a spread pass on in my pickup truck, and we'll have a closer look and we'll get a feel for the ride to see just how it feels, if there's any bumps or washboards, or we'll see how good this system actually worked, and evaluate from there. But again, you have to use the throttle lock when you want to use the stable blade, and I always encourage guys to disable the stable blade when you're doing your cut pass and re-enable it when you're doing your spread pass. It's just going to work a lot better for you. Just while we're cruising back here, one thing I forgot to say or mention was that the stable blade feature is only going to work from 1st to 5th gear. It's not going to work in 6th, 7th, or 8th. So if you're trying to spread, which you shouldn't be anyway, in my opinion, any faster than 6th, or any faster than 5th, pardon me, the stable blade ain't going to do anything for you. So it's only a 1 through 5th option. But again, probably shouldn't be spreading faster than that anyway.
Okay everybody, so as you can see, we are cruising down the road that we bladed with the stable blade turned on, and as you can see, things are nice and smooth. There's no weird washboard anywhere in the middle of the road, so the system does what it's supposed to do. While this video is finishing up, I'd just like to take time again to thank everybody for tuning in and watching. If you like this kind of content, don't forget to stick around, like and subscribe to the channel. I appreciate it, And don't forget, I am Iron Man. We'll see you guys on the next one.